John Wayne Gacy Jr., American serial killer and sex offender who raped, tortured, and murdered at least 33 young men and boys in his hometown, he became known as the Killer Clown. Gacy was born into a blue-collared upper-middle-class family. His parents were Marion Elaine Robinson and John Stanley Gacy Sr. He had 2 siblings. His father, John Gacy, was an auto repair mechanic who also was a severe alcoholic. In his father's eyes, he was a disappointment. He was overweight and unathletic. His father humiliated and abused him his whole childhood. John's upbringing consisted of mental and physical abuse. Gacy had a heart condition at 11 years old that had him grow up overweight, and he also started to get blackouts in 4th grade. During him and his siblings' punishments, they were beaten with a razor strap. He was hiding a big secret from his family, that he was attracted to men. Gacy did have a relationship with his mother, but they weren't very close. John got married in 1964 to Marilyn Myers, and they had children, Michael and Christy Gacy. 4 years later, in 1968, he was sentenced to 10 years for the sodomy of 2 teenage boys, but only served 18 months. In 1969, during his time in prison, his wife divorced him and was granted full custody of their 2 children. In early 1970, after leaving prison, he lived a double life as a job contractor and a side gig as Pogo the Clown. He lived with his mom at their family home during the time. He was remarried in 1971 to Carol Hoff, single mom of 2 girls.
He murdered his first victim, Timothy Jack McCoy, 16, after picking him up and taking him back to ply them with drugs and alcohol. When he got in the home, he wrestled him to the ground, stabbed him in the chest numerous times, then washed his knife in the bathroom, then shoved his body into the crawl space. After his first murder, by the end of 1975, he murdered twice as many, then murdered at least 30 subsequent victims after his divorce from his second wife in 1976. He hid the bodies in his childhood home crawl space. His victims were mostly people he knew, often employees, random victims, lured off the streets with promises of a job, drinks, or even money for sex. Finally, he was caught after luring sophomore Robert Priest to his house, promising a summer job. They end up searching John Wayne Gacy's home, and they found police badges, a starter pistol, bottle of Valium, and atropine in small underwear. They identified 28 of the victims, and he was sentenced to die for 12 of those killings in 1980. He was executed by lethal injections on May 10, 1994, and was pronounced dead at 12:58 a.m. His last words were, "Kiss my." He also admitted to tossing 4 bodies in the river because he quote-unquote ran out of room at home, and also confessed to murdering dozens of people on December 21st, 1978. Also, the same day that John Wayne Gacy died by lethal injections was the same day that Jeffrey Dahmer was baptized.
I have a couple questions. How many victims did he keep in his home?
29, and only 27 of them were identified.
What year was he born?
1942 in Chicago, Illinois, on March 17th.
What was his heart condition he was diagnosed with as a child?
He has a congenital heart condition that caused him to gain weight.
Where did he commit the murders?
He committed the murders in his house in Chicago, Illinois.
How many kids did he have?
He had 2 kids, Michael and Christy Gacy.
What was the name of the river he threw the 4 victims into?
That's the Plains River.
Only 28 of Gacy's victims have been identified. The names of the victims are Timothy Jack McCoy, who was 16 and died on January 3rd, 1972, and was found in the crawl space. John Butkovich, age 18, who was murdered on July 31st, 1975, and was found in the garage. Randall Wayne Reffitt, age 15, who was murdered on May 14th, 1976, and was found in the crawl space. Samuel G. Dodd Stapleton, age 14, who was murdered on May 14th, 1976, and was found in the crawl space. Michael Lawrence Bonin, age 17, who was murdered on June 3rd, 1976, and was found in the crawl space. William Huey Carroll Jr., age 16, who was murdered on June 13th, 1976, and was found in the crawl space. James Byron Hawkinson, age 16, who was murdered on August 5th, 1976, and was found in the crawl space. Rick Lewis Johnston, age 17, who was murdered on August 6, 1976, and was found in the crawl space. Kenneth Ray Parker, age 16, who was murdered on October 24th, 1976, and was found in the crawl space. Michael M. Marino, age 14, who was murdered on October 24th, 1976, and was found in the crawl space. William George Bundy, age 19, who was murdered on October 26, 1976, and was found in the crawl space. Francis Wayne Alexander, age 21, who was murdered on December 1st, 1976, and was found in the crawl space. Gregory John Godzik, age 17, who was murdered on December 12th, 1976, and was found in the crawl space. John Allen Stick, age 19, was murdered on January 20th, 1977, and was found in the crawl space. John Stephen Prestige, age 20, was murdered on March 15th, 1977, and was found in the crawl space. Matthew Walter Bauman, age 19, was murdered on July 5th, 1977, and was found in the crawl space. Robert Edward Gilroy Jr., age 18, was murdered on September 15th, 1977, and was found in the crawl space. John Anthony Mowry, age 19, was murdered on September 25th, 1977, and was found in the crawl space. Russell Lloyd Nelson, age 21, was murdered on October 17th, 1977, and was found in the crawl space. Robert David Winch, age 16, was murdered on November 10th, 1977, and was found in the crawl space. Tommy Joe Bowling, age 20, was murdered on November 18th, 1977, and was found in the crawl space. David Paul Talsma, age 19, was murdered on December 9th, 1977, and was found in the crawl space. William Wayne Kindred, age 19, was murdered on February 16th, 1978, and was found in the crawl space.
5 victims still remain unidentified, 4 of whom have been buried beneath Gacy's crawl space and 1 buried approximately 15 feet from the barbecue pit in his backyard. In the fall of 1979, a forensic science expert used the skulls of the remaining identified victims to create a facial reconstruction.
The 4 victims that was thrown in the Des Plaines River were Timothy David O'Rourke, age 20, Frank William Landingen, age 19, James Matsara, age 20, and Robert Jerome Peace, age 15.
After all this, that we know John Wayne Gacy was not a good person. He performed as a clown at children's parties, and he raped and tortured and murdered at least 33 young men and boys in Norwood Park Township, Illinois. Innocent kids looking for a summer job. John Wayne Gacy had a harsh childhood and an antisocial personality disorder. His murders were classified as a combination of frustration and self-control. In the end, the sexual aggression Gacy faced, coupled with his psychological trauma from a young age, suppression with a sexual identity, breakdown of social controls, and antisocial personality disorder created the infamous monster that once alerted children as Pogo the Clown.